On your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, we kick off a week-long series talking about the middle of the Eastern Conference. Today, Tony East of Locked On Pacers are here to talk about the Pacers who, despite not having Tyrese Haliburton, might still be kind of awesome, at least in a play-in kind of way.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, September the 8th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms, and we're back to daily, baby. Yes, the season is near, and we are back recording 5 shows a week, and it just so happens that I'm on vacation this week, and so I've got a pre-recorded set of interviews with people who cover the teams the Raptors are going to be up against in the middle of the Eastern Conference, and we kick things off today with the Indiana Pacers and our pal Tony East from Locked On Pacers. Later this week, we got Kuka Heel from Locked On Pistons, Dave Ramil from Locked On Heat, Camille Davis from Locked On Bucks, and our pal Trill Brodude from You Know Ball to talk about the Sixers. All that coming up on deck this week. Before we get to the Pacers chat, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is closer than you think, and right now new customers get bet $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app to get started today, and we will get started on our week of looking at the mushy middle of a wide open East with our dear pal Tony East from Locked On Pacers. Let's get to it. Joining me now is everyone's favorite former proprietor of a gentleman's club in East Toronto. It is Tony East from Locked On Pacers, a favorite of the comments. Far too many people apparently frequented Tony's East back in the day. The comments are going to be a flutter again today, my friend. How are you? We're going to talk some Pacers. What's going on, pal?
I forget about this bit every time we chat, and we haven't chatted as much recently. These teams were on the same kind of trajectory for a while. We were overlapping all the time, and then we faded apart. So it's always nice to catch up, Sean.
Yeah, buddy. It's a thrill to have you. And yeah, I mean, we'll get into it. I don't think these teams are going to finish particularly close to one another in the standings this year, but I do think they're very much in the sort of middle morass of like 6 or 7 teams that all could kind of finish relatively. We'll get into it. I really want to know what you think.
I think I'm high on the Raptors compared to everybody else, and I think
I'm higher on the Raptors too. I think I'm a little lower on where the Pacers are going to end up. Is kind of my thing.
Continue.
But yeah, well, let's start with the thing that you have been driven insane by on your own show. The concept of a gap year. The Pacers are definitely taking a gap year. They're not going to try it all this year. They're not going to do anything of note. They're just going to roll the ball out 82 times and go through the motions until Tyrese Haliburton's back and they can be a basketball team again. Of course, this is, of course, a silly notion. You play basketball even without Tyrese Haliburton. There's plenty to be gleaned and learned and done by this team this year. You've done this on your show. I know you did a crossover with John Corrales from Locked On Celtics, a team that I think is actually going to be significantly worse than the Pacers, by the way. We can get into that too, but why does the concept of this being a gap year frustrate you so as the host of the Locked On Pacers podcast?
Yeah, it's just like shut your eyes, go hop on 2K, click simulate. All right, there's the record. It's over, right? Who cares? Their ceiling's gone. Yeah, okay, I understand what people are saying, right?
If you can't win a championship, you shouldn't exist, man. It's just the way it is.
But I mean, no one thought they would win the title last year. They were 1 game away. But it's I get that it's a gap from their peak competitive window without Haliburton. I understand that their ceiling went from could legitimately win the East to hey, if they make the playoffs, that's fine and good and exciting. But it's there's still so much to learn this season about, as your listeners know, the many young Canadians on the team, and that extends to all of their young players: Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin, Aaron Nesmith, Johnny Furphy. I could go on and on. They have a ton of young guys that are relevant to their success. They're a little different than the Celtics in that both of them are having this term that everybody says gap year. John Corrales and I have landed on evaluation year, whereas the Pacers are naturally young. The guys that they play every night are already young. It's not a gap year. They're learning what those guys are good at. Can they take on bigger roles when Haliburton comes back? Because he's probably not going to be the same player. That is all still interesting and important, even if it doesn't come with 50 wins and a path to the finals, it's still something of note, and they'll still probably win about half their games, maybe a little less than that. Like I don't think that's a gap year at all, even though I understand if people's interest is different when the highest level outcomes are off the table.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man. If you like watching hoop, there's plenty to like enjoy by watching a team that maybe can't climb the mountain. Yeah,
I forgot the other point. The most fun seasons as a fan are when there's no expectations. Like, and you're just, and like every win is exceeding it, and like every big performance from a young dude is super exciting. Like, you know, I'm not saying it will be more fun because it'll suck. Like when they get their butt kicked by the best teams, it will suck. But like there will be fun nights. It's like, oh my God, they beat Minnesota and it'll be topping at 31 points, or so, you know, like that will be awesome this year for fans.
It's also got to be like a nice thing knowing like Tyrese Haliburton's coming back and like, you know, look at the peak of what this team is capable with him. Yeah, it's going to be like a fun, you know, hang out in the playground year type of thing. Maybe you're not ascending to anything terribly special. You know, we'll get into it. I think the Pacers are probably a play-in team in the Eastern Conference, but like, that's fine. You know, there's going to be a lot to dig into. I think the guy I'm most excited to watch, Tony, is Andrew Nembhard. You know, obviously, you know, we can tie this into the Toronto connection by, you know, he's from around these parts and plays for Team Canada and all that stuff. You know, we like to make these loose connections, so we're still on topic. But, you know, he figures to be the guy who maybe has like the most expanded role this coming year. In the absence of Tyrese Haliburton, we've seen him be an absolute demon in the playoffs and like a pretty fine regular season player in the past. What do you expect from the Andrew Nembhard experience this year? Is it just like he's going to step in and be like a 20-8 lead guard, or is it going to be something a little more muted than that, as he, you know, maybe doesn't quite have the total expansiveness of lead guard creation that, say, for example, Tyrese Haliburton brings to the table?
Yeah, the two Canadians will see the biggest changes, certainly. Mathurin will go from bench guy to starter with like meaningful scoring role. Like some Pacers fans, especially the ones highest on him, think he could lead the team in scoring. And then Nembhard, it's not maybe like way more. I mean, it's more responsibility, obviously, but it's way different. Like he is the lead initiator every single play, every single time. And I've always been super high on him. And he had that series against the Celtics where it was like, hey, Jrue Holiday cannot stop him. Like he's getting to the rim every single time and scoring 30 points in games. And that has not happened very often, right? That's super rare. And so there's a lot of questions about what lead ball handler Andrew Nembhard's actually going to look like for however many games he plays this season, because many will remember he signed that extension last offseason, right, for whatever it was. And everybody said, good on the Pacers to get ahead of it because a lot of teams might bet on him as a high-level lead initiator. Well, now everybody gets to see it, right? Where those teams have been right. Could he have been that good? Or I mean, I think it's a good contract either way because he's such a good fit with Haliburton. But to see how he does in that role, like there's a lot of belief, even from external fans of his, and of course the Pacers believe in him, they paid him, that he can be very good in that role. He obviously has played point guard on past teams, including Team Canada when he was backing up Jamal Murray and playing better than Jamal Murray in the Olympics last year.
Sorry, don't remind me.
Sorry, Jamal Murray for the Strays. But he played a lot, and he had that huge game against Spain. Like he's a good player, obviously, and I think they believe he can do a lot of stuff. He'll go through a lot of changes. Like he can't go out every night and guard the other team's best player and be the lead ball handler. Like that's not tenable. So he's going to have some unique changes to what he does, but he's the guy that his responsibility will change so much that if he is as good as people believe he can be as a lead guard, they could be not as good as Tyrese Haliburton, obviously, but at least like a very capable team still.
Yeah, like, you know, the three-point shooting is going to have to be there. You kind of got to have some pull-up juice to your game if you're going to be a good lead initiator. It's kind of the prerequisite skill and all of that, but damn good player. And yeah, like there's support for him elsewhere on the roster too. And the guy I want to get into next to your Tony is our dear departed Pascal Siakam, who, was sort of, I mean, for years it was, this guy can't be a number one. This guy can't be a number one. Get rid of his ass because he can't be a number one. Of course, that was all stupid. He's going to get a chance to likely be a number one this year for the Pacers. I want to get into what that experience is going to be like. And also talk about what's the bottom potential for this team, like the bottom out potential that is. Is this thing going to go totally off the rails? Will it intentionally go off the rails with a draft pick hanging out there that might have some Toronto Raptors ties? We'll get all that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's a lot of fun. Maybe you got football futures bets you want to throw some scratch down on, or maybe you got a hunch for an NBA title pick this coming season. Could be kind of wide open unless you think the Thunder are in for a dynasty. But if you got someone else, maybe you think the Mavericks are going to do it with a healthy Kyrie Irving. Maybe you think the Orlando Magic are going to go all the way. If you think that, you can throw some money down on them with your bonus bucks and win some more bucks on top of your bonus bucks. Ain't that fun? So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. With the NFL season starting, there's no better time than now. Go check it out, FanDuel.com. Tony East from Locked On Pacers here. We are talking about the teams the Toronto Raptors might be doing battle with in the middle of the Eastern Conference this coming season. And one of those teams is, of course, the Indiana Pacers. Otherwise, Tony wouldn't be here, damn it. And so, Tony, Pascal Siakam, my dear boy, one of my all-time favorite Toronto Raptors. Of course, a guy who I clamored for the Raptors to just extend and keep around with Scotty Barnes as someone who would theoretically, if they could figure out the rest of the roster around them, help each other shine. That didn't happen, of course. The Raptors now have Brandon Ingram and Jacoby Walter and Ochai Agbaji to show for it. I think that's as fine recovery as you're going to have from a trade that at the time I panned quite deeply, deeper than deep dish pizza. I was not into it. I thought the Raptors handled it poorly. I am very happy for Pascal Siakam that he gets to go be Pascal Siakam for the Indiana Pacers. I'm thrilled he got to play with Tyrese Haliburton for the last couple seasons and theoretically into the future as well. I think it's a perfect type of player to accentuate what Pascal does really well. This year, it's going to be different, Tony. Without Tyrese Haliburton there, one would assume Pascal is going to take on a bit of an extra creation burden, just as someone who, in theory, can dribble, an important skill when you're trying to create offense. And he's someone who, at times with the Raptors, had little pockets and stretches of like, I don't want to say full-on helio ball, but not far from it for a couple moments here and there throughout his time with the Raptors. I think about the start, I believe it was the 2021-22 season, if I'm not mistaken, where he started off just like totally red hot and then got hurt. And, it never kind of got back to that level, but he was basically playing like an MVP for the first 10, 15 games before he slipped on the floor in Dallas. I digress. What are you looking for? What are you looking forward to when it comes to Pascal Siakam getting the keys in large part to the offense for the Pacers this year? And do you expect that it will actually kind of take that shape? Or do you think they're maybe just going to kind of give the reins to Nembhard and Mathurin and just kind of have Pascal continue to occupy the sort of secondary role that he's been so damn good in for the Pacers since they acquired him?
Yeah, so I actually have questions for you about this, ironically,
Please, yeah,
because you've
go
seen
nuts.
it. So first, let me answer that. Like Rick Carlisle did Caitlin Cooper's podcast. Shout out to CC the GOAT, and talked about how Siakam is going to be a closer with Nembhard, and like it's very obvious he's going to be their number one option this year. That makes sense. He's even at times when Haliburton's been struggling, been consistent and been their number one option in the past. Not like very infrequently, but still. What year? So I ask you, what years would you say during Pascal's time with the Raptors was he obviously the number one option? Because when DeMar was there, he was not. When Kawhi was there, he was not. Is there a time when Lowry and Fred were there that you thought, yes, Pascal is the guy that mostly post-bubble there? And because I only ask that because the big question I would have about lead option Pascal Siakam, I know he can score very well. He's so crafty. He'll always have spin move, fading something that no one can guard, is passing. Right, he has at times with Toronto, especially, and granted, he played like 38 minutes a game, but put up good assist numbers in a way that's where his success as a Pacers lead option is going to matter. Is how much can he handle distributing some, because they're losing a lot without Haliburton. What years would you say he had to have those first option and passing responsibilities with Toronto, if ever? Because they've always had guards who had the ball a lot who were really good as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I don't think 2019-20 qualifies. He was an All-NBA guy that year. I think, that still felt very much like Kyle Lowry's team. He was the guy that drove the squad. And it was those two guys who kind of, in tandem, often like their 2-man game was basically instant buckets that they just spammed late in games. And it was really awesome. And it's why I've always loved the concept of Pascal playing with a pull-up shooting lead guard. It's because it just, the harmony between those two types of players' games is pretty amazing to watch. I would say, I suppose the Tampa season in 2020, 2021, he was like, I guess you would say he was sort of the number one, but that team was such a disaster, and it just, I kind of repressed the entire year. So it's probably not the best one.
So did the player. So.
And I think Fred was an all-star that year. So that might be more sort of in line. And then I'm trying to remember exactly which year it was that he started the year red hot. He was hurt to start the year one year. Yeah, so it was 2022-23. It ended up being a terrible season for the Raptors, but 22-23 he starts that year, and he is like lights out, putting up like 27 a game. I think he was up near like 6 or 7 assists through the first 10-12 games before he got hurt. Like, that was the peak of Pascal Siakam lead option. He was very much that the year before as well in 21-22, though that team was very much like, Scotty Barnes in his rookie season being, Scotty Barnes and like the very, very good version of him. And this sort of weird, everyone is 6'9" and jumpy, the kind of the peak of vision 6'9" ball. So I don't really think of Pascal as like the Helio guy that year either. It really was that start of 22-23 where he was at his best as the guy who was basically just doing this like probing, slow developing ISO and pick and roll game that, it's interesting because I think it's like the most antithetical style of play to Indiana Pacers basketball I can imagine is throwing the ball to Pascal and having him like run a pick and roll and snake it and kind of keep his head on a swivel and wait for the defense and, kind of probe it and, just kind of take away clock with the ball in his hands. But he's effective at that. And I think without Haliburton, it makes sense to kind of tailor the way they play a little bit towards that. And I think if you have proper shooting around him, if you have proper movement off of him, guys who can leverage the attention he draws in the mid-range to, like he's going to be great at finding guys on back cuts. Like I do think he's a good passer. He was always very good with like assist to turnover stuff. He's not like visionary Tyrese Haliburton level passer by any means, but always have thought he was a good passer. Even back to like his, rookie season or like his second year, I guess, is where he really kind of came into his own as like a big to big passer. That's always been a real strength of his. It's just a smart basketball player, man. It's not going to be, again, the prettiest watch in the world. Most likely it's not going to be very much like what Pacers basketball typically has looked like in recent years, but I think it can certainly be effective. And, I think they had the supporting cast and again, the shooting around him likely to make it work pretty well, even though, you lose Haliburton and Miles Turner and the shooting scene gets a little bit more tricky than I guess what you thought it was. But, playing with Jay Huff, like
you say Jay Huff?
Like, yeah, man. Like
are you totally work. Are you huffing on Jay shooting?
Oh, man? I'm huffing that Jay. You're totally, 100% I'm huffing that Jay. I think he's going to be awesome.
Ron, welcome to the joke, baby. So Pascal has good vision. And so I think any posting in stuff where he's initiating, like you said, or even if he's running a pick and roll from behind the 3-point line, like, great. Yeah, he can see cutters. He'll do stuff. Mm-hmm. Kind of blending what you said with what I'm curious about is what do they want to do playstyle wise this year? Do they want to try to play the same way without Haliburton and like develop player habits in that? So when he comes back, they're like, yep, we're ready to go. Or do they want to slightly tweak that to maximize what they have? Mm-hmm. And then they have more versatility in the future, but guys might not be as good or as fresh on that style. And so if you're playing perfectly catered to Pascal number one option ball, that is not the same way that they played last year. And that's not to say that they don't fit at all. Pascal was very good for the Pacers last year, as everybody saw. It's just going to be very interesting to see how those kind of things mesh together because they're going to need a lot from Siakam to be not only the guy he was for them last year, every mismatch, get him the ball in the post right away. He runs up the floor in transition, get him the ball. He can pass. He's got spacers around him. He knows the spacing principle so well that he's getting good shots all the time. He very rarely, like you said, messes up with a stupid turnover or something like that. Like, great player. Right. Mm-hmm. But is the number one option. How does that change things? Without Haliburton, how does that change things? With maybe Isaiah Jackson starting next to him, what does that actually look like? I have a lot of questions about it. I think he's going to be good at it. And I wonder what it's going to look like for the Pacers when their number one option isn't the guy who has the ball all the time. So it's going to be just very different. And I'll be curious to how much I can look back on those Toronto days with a different team as like, this is a blueprint versus this is just what happened with a different team and a coach who played him absurd minutes.
Yeah, I would say watch like the first 10 games of 2022-23, and you'll get, I think, a pretty good idea of what sort of number one Siakam ball can look like. I mean, he was awesome. Like that year, he was like 24, 8, and 6. He was, and again, in all of the minutes, of course,
The 6 is
48 minutes a game. Yeah, he's a damn good player, man. I really like Pascal Siakam. I think is a thing to take away from the show. One thing too, I'm kind of interested by, not to like turn to the Raptors podcast into how are the Pacers going to play, but I think Pascal too, like he's so good as a transition player, and I feel like Haliburton lends so well to that. I wonder if that is just like a missing aspect of his game. Like, he's still going to get on the run. He's damn good at it. He's one of the fastest open court players we've ever seen. One of the best transition players since he came into the NBA. I do wonder, like, is this a year where does he himself take a gap year on running and instead just kind of, play a little more slow and plodding style? And I guess that kind of leads me into going back to the gap year stuff. If the Pacers aren't going to be able to play their brand of basketball, if it's going to be something where they have to like maybe overtax Pascal Siakam at 31 years old to carry a team to, what might be a middling record at best, what is the bottom sort of outcome for this team, do you think? Like, the Pacers are historically, and this is the thing I love about the Pacers and why when there was word that the Raptors might be after a Kevin Pritchard type or Chad Buchanan, I was into it because like they're a team that is tanking averse. And boy, oh boy, do I love myself a team that is tanking averse, that likes to build from the middle and, just sort of go with the philosophy of let's have good basketball players and go from there. But this could be in theory a pretty natural stealth tank year for the Pacers as well. They, of course, traded back for their first round pick, which was involved in the Pascal trade, came to the Raptors, ended up being part of the Brandon Ingram trade. And so like they can, in theory, like make that pick look like something Raptors fans will definitely be very normal reacting about if the Pacers pick very high this coming year. But do you think they will actually indulge that, or are they just going to kind of do the thing where they try to win as many games as possible and let the chips fall where they may? Because I think if they just do that, I think their bottom is probably 10th in the East. I think it's as low as they'll fall.
Yeah, that pick intertwined hilariously from Pacers to Raptors to Pelicans to Pacers, and the last trade got the Pelicans the pick that they used to make the stupidest trade ever. So,
man.
All right.
The oral history of that draft pick is going to be a hell of a book written by Tony East one day.
Pacers getting that back is big for what you just said. Like, if Nembhard can't be the point guard or even just like a scoring initiator that everybody thinks might be possible, and if Mathurin continues to have the same fit questions, like maybe this is a not good season for the Pacers who like, and this is totally reasonable to say, like, it's possible Tyrese Haliburton's holding up the whole house, right? Like he's that good,
Good. Yeah.
All these guys who are such great shooters can't make as many when they're not set up by one of the best, if not the best passing guards in the league. Like that's not impossible to me. So would it be the end of the world if Pascal Siakam missed 10 games with a little ankle thing in the middle of the season? Oh no. Like that's the kind of stuff that will be interesting for the Pacers this year. Again, the conflicting part is Siakam's over 30, McConnell's over 30. Everybody else in the rotation is pretty young. So it's like, if you wanted to tank, the guys you'd play are already playing anyway. Sure. So they don't have like a super low end bottom. Like they're a lock to win 30 games, right? Like they don't have a low bottom. They're not going to tank for like crazy odds, but with the new draft lottery, like I don't think if they had a slow start or had a significant injury, if they thought it'd be the end of the world to win 32 and not make it versus win 40 and be battling for a play-in / make the playoffs again. So is that possible? Yeah, but all their young players are good. Like I don't think it's possible for them to suck enough for that to be like a high upside pick, just like maybe a decent one.
Yeah, I also just I think the bottom 5 teams in the East are going to be so wretched that like the Wizards, the Nets, I'm throwing the Celtics in there because they're starting Chris Boucher, man. Like I'm sorry, like love Chris Boucher. If you're starting Chris Boucher, I think your intent has been made clear from the jump, and I don't think the Celtics, they're the team that I think is just going to be like, oh, we have to like get a really high pick to add to Jason Tatum as he comes back from being healthy, as we just traded all of our players for salary purposes. Oh no, Jaylen Brown, stay out with your extra few days with a cold 4 times throughout the year, all that stuff. Like I think they're going to really telegraph this thing to stink. And it might be done for them because, again, they're going to be starting like Chris Boucher and Luka Garza in the front court. But, you throw in the Hornets. I don't believe in the Hornets ever. And I think the
I'm
Bulls
a
are going
Hornets
to stink
believer this
too.
year.
Yeah, of course. Great. Hornets
I'm
believe.
Officially a Hornets believer.
We're talking to a normal person with a normal brain on the podcast. Love to hear it. We're going to come back on the other side, Tony, and talk about who you got, Raptors, Pacers, or apparently the Hornets, because you're a sick person who can't just accept that it ain't going to work. We will come back and do that in just one sec. Still reeling from Tony telling me he's a Hornets believer. Okay, man. Okay.
Does it make you feel better if I follow that up and say I'm also a Raptors believer?
Let's go there. Yes. So to close this off, I just want to do a simple who you got, Raptors or Pacers, to finish higher in the Eastern Conference. And if while you give that answer, you want to outline your case for why you're bullish on the mighty Toronto Raptors, I ain't going to stop you.
Yeah, I think they'll be close, but I put the Raptors slightly ahead. Here's why. My case for like teams that end up better than people think, or like teams that end up looking capable when very few people think they will, or in some cases even look pretty good, is like finally they have a really good ball handling floor. The Kings a few years ago when De'Aaron Fox finally explodes onto the scene. The Pacers when Victor Oladipo is way better than everybody thought. You could find countless years where the surprise team, Cade Cunningham taking off last year and making Detroit not a joke. Like it's always that. And the Raptors, I love Emmanuel Quickley. I loved Emmanuel Quickley with the Knicks. He just has been hurt. Like if he plays, name your number, 60 games, ignore any transactions the Raptors made last year. Like the same team they had with 60 games of Quickley is probably 37 wins.
Yeah,
and
like they tried to lose at the end of the year, like and like engineered
and their schedule was so easy
ways that have never been engineered before. They broke new ground.
Right. So just that, plus like internal improvement of Scotty, Grady, Quickley, evens Young, like that gets you to 40, and now they have Brandon Ingram on their team. Like that to me is a team that should be maybe I don't know exactly where I'd put them. I'd probably still have for sure 5 teams, maybe 6 above them in the East, but I can see the Raptors being right behind that crew. And I think the Pacers have less ways of getting that high in the standings. But like, that's my case for the Hornets too, is like, if LaMelo's finally healthy, which LOL at just saying that sentence out loud, like that's
way to discredit yourself immediately.
Like if LaMelo's finally healthy, they have like other good players on the team. They have no centers either, but like they could be better than people think. Not good, but better than people think. But the Raptors have like actual talent on their team, and if their floor of having a good point guard is way more often because Quickley's really good and can actually play in games, like people forget he got paid a lot for a reason, even though I think he's slightly overpaid. Like he is good. If he plays games, they'll be good and tough and long. And I have questions about, the coach, because I've never seen him with a good team, not because I don't think he can do it, but other than that, like I totally see how the Raptors could be decent this year. And I also see how the Pacers could be decent, but I think the Raptors have, especially with their inertia and want to be good, whereas the Pacers, I think, want to be good, but have reasons to, maybe do what we talked about earlier. I'll pick the Raptors slightly. I picked the Pacers for 41 wins this year. I'll give the Raptors like 43 or 44.
Gotcha. I think we're a little further apart. Like look, I'm the classic optimist fool on this podcast. And every summer I start with, they're going to be fine. And then by the time the summer is over, I'm like, 57 wins, baby. I'm not going that high, but I am going to probably, put my flag down on like 45 to 47 wins is kind of the sweet spot. East is not good. And like, I just think there's a lot of power in having a lot of good basketball players on your team. And I think the Raptors stand a chance of having a lot of good basketball players on their team if they have just like a little bit of health, which they didn't have last year, of course, and you can't bank on it, but also at some point the luck's got to turn, one would think, or the ligaments will hold strong, or Emmanuel Quickley won't get baseball injuries to his elbow randomly. I think they probably are in line for some better luck.
If there's an RJ Barrett trade out for less money of a player that I think fits the Raptors a little better too, I think I'd have them even higher. That would let them start Grady and have the spacing and shooting. Like I'm into what the Raptors have done. I don't know how high the ceiling is yet. I want to see Scotty with this group, but I get it completely, especially once because they're over the tax, which is stupid. Like once they make their little final move thing to make their team make sense even more, I'll be fully in there. And the other thing is, like, every year people do their over under predictions with the spreads, and people always say, like, with teams that have incentive to not try, they're like, well, they're going to go under because of their incentives. Like the Raptors have less incentive to go down than the Pacers would in theory. Totally, like that's another reason that they could be farther apart than I said. I think the Pacers are going to try more than people think, but as you said earlier, they're always a trying team. But at least I can hear and understand that argument.
Yeah, like I think the Pacers I'd probably peg as like the 9th or 10th seed in the East, like a plucky 9 or 10, and maybe they actually like surprise a team in the 7 or 8. Maybe one of those teams is the Toronto Raptors. I think, for me, to me, there's only 3 teams I think are locks to be top 6. I think it's
I have 4.
yeah. Do you one of these Hawks freaks? Okay.
Yes, I am a Hawks freak.
Okay, so like for me, it's Orlando, the Knicks, and the Cavs, and
I'm
beyond that,
pretty confident in the Pistons, but not like totally.
I don't know, man. I feel like not enough is being made. We'll talk about this. I'll try to get Koo from Locked On Pistons on at some point here. Like, I feel like not enough is being made that they're losing a Klay Thompson level season from Malik Beasley, and just like, yeah, we'll replace that with Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert.
I make the same case for them. I've made the Pacers for the last few years. Like all their good players are young. Like Cade, Duran, and Asar, and Holland. All these players should be better. Like that should offset any losses. I can't say the same about the Bucks, who are both like, no, I don't know.
Yeah. The Bucks, we'll talk about the Bucks at some point too. We'll try to get Camille on, but when it comes to the other thing too with the Pistons is like if you don't like the Raptors fit because of shooting concerns, I don't know. You're rolling out Duren and Thompson and Holland together.
Yeah, right.
Could get dicey, man. I don't know. I just like I feel like they're the classic. They had a really fun year. They're set up very well for the future, but maybe there's a bit of a letdown now that they're not a surprise type of team anymore. And I just think it's going to be so clustered between 4 and 10 that. The difference between those spots could be like 4 wins, which like, what are we really talking about here? It's so amorphous. It all comes down to, does a guy miss a week at the wrong time, that type of stuff. But I do think the Pacers just like, because of their mild incentive to maybe not be so good, if they choose to kind of go that route and just, not having Haliburton's a big deal. I do think I have them pretty much significantly lower than the Raptors. If I'm, game planning it out, I think the Raptors are like, I'm going to sound like such a homer, but I'm like 5th or 6th is kind of where I have them finishing in the East. I think
like, my range for the Raptors would be like 6 to 8.
Yeah, that's fair.
In the Raptors Bucks Heat tier would be my tier of.
Yeah, I think 5, 6, 7 is kind of where
I'm kind of lower on the Heat than everybody else. Maybe I should.
Me too. I'm sorry. I watched Davion Mitchell start for my basketball team all year last year. Not fun.
They're the opposite end of what I just said about point guards with Quickly. Like, how much is your ceiling really going up because you added Norm Powell? Like, your point guards are still the same. Like, you're the same guys with the ball. You're the same guys with the ball.
We will talk about this with one of Wes or Dave when I get them to talk about the Heat. Tony, this was great. Thanks so much, brother. Always a pleasure to talk.
We did it.
And, yes, we did. Hopefully we do it again more this year as the Raptors and Pacers do battle in the mushy middle of the Eastern Conference. If you have memories of Tony's East, let us know in the comments. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
No, if you want to hear about number one option, Pascal Siakam, Locked On Pacers is the place for you. But it is off-season mode, so I can't even tell you what's coming up. It'll be flying by the seat of our pants, baby. Let's go.
The offseason really is a choose-your-own adventure, ain't it? We're going to talk about this today, or I'm going to talk
about
one day.
Like, you know what? Let's talk to Sean about Pascal Siakam as the number one option. So
yeah, 100%. Tony, you're the best, man. Talk soon. Thanks everyone for rocking with the show. Please follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, etc., etc. We'll talk to you again. Again, these are pre-recorded episodes while I'm on vacation, so not even sure what day this is dropping as of yet. I'll have said the date once I've done the intro to the show. That's pre-recorded at a different time. Taking you way too far behind the curtain. Either way, we'll talk to you tomorrow, probably, or if not, off after the weekend, depending on when this drops. Have a good one. Bye. Damn it.